Hi, good evening, everybody. I just wanted to welcome you to our public information meeting for State Project 172-535, installation revision of traffic control signals in District 2. I'm just going to give it a few more minutes to let any other attendees kind of join the meeting tonight. So I'll be back in a few minutes to officially start the presentation. Okay, thank you. Hello, good evening, everybody. My name is Kata Podgorski. I'm the project manager for the Connecticut Department of Transportation for State Projects number 172-535, installation and revision of traffic control signals in District 2. District 2 is our easternmost district in the state. So you can see a map behind the title here, but we're not working in all of these towns for this particular project. For this one, we are only replacing traffic signals in Chaplin, Griswold, Ledyard, New London, Norwich, Old Saybrook, and Plainfields. So we will be focusing on very specific locations as we get further into the presentation. And I just wanted to draw your attention for the first time to our email that you can communicate with us at. It's dot.signalreplacements@ct.gov to give us feedback on the project or ask any questions you have at any time in the next couple of weeks following this presentation. So now we're going to get started with some housekeeping for the presentation. Starting with how to view captions and subtitles in Zoom. You should have on your screen, your Zoom screen, you should have a CC icon at the bottom, as shown in the screenshot, that you can click, and then you can select the speaking language that you would choose from the drop-down list. There's lots of choices, and these choices are also going to be available in YouTube in the archived version of this presentation that will be available when we're done here. And to talk a little bit about what we're planning on talking about for this meeting, we've got a few more housekeeping issues. We're going to introduce the project team. We're going to talk about the purpose of the meeting and the project overview, and a little bit about the coordination efforts that we do and we've started already for the project. Some of the right-of-way impacts that we could be having at some of these intersection locations. A little bit about the project cost and schedule, and then what's coming up next for the project. And then after all that, we're going to have a question and answer session where anybody is welcome to share their questions or thoughts about the project. So to participate in the question and answer session, I already mentioned the email that you're welcome to use at any time. The official comments selection period, or the comment period, is officially for the next 2 weeks, but this email address is live all the time. It's DOT signal replacements at ct.gov. Our phone number that you can leave a voicemail at, and we'll be checking throughout this presentation, is 860-594-2020, or you can use the Q&A function on Zoom. And just also so you know, there's a project webpage where information is constantly provided about the project, and you're able to find links from that page to the archived presentation, as well as the email address there as well. A little bit more info on how to use the Zoom Q&A feature. You should have a Q&A icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And if you click it, then the window should open. And you'll be able to type your question into the text box and just click enter, and we'll be able to see it and respond to it during the Q&A portion of the presentation. Also, if you are an audio only participant, you can dial *9 to raise and lower your hand, and we can unmute you so you can share your thoughts. So this is the Title VI civil rights slide that says that no person shall, on the basis of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation or subject to discrimination in the development of this project. We have a voluntary post-meeting survey that you could fill out if you have any thoughts on this topic. A link to it and QR code are provided on our website. There's also just more information about civil rights on the Connecticut Department of Transportation website. And again, a recording of this presentation will be posted to ConnDOT's archived YouTube channel, either right after the events or tomorrow. And this slide is the Title VI notice to the public. It says that any person who believes she or he has been aggrieved by any unlawful discriminatory practice under Title VI may file a complaint with the Connecticut Department of Transportation. For more information on the Connecticut Department of Transportation Civil Rights Program and the procedures to file a complaint, contact ConnDOT Title VI Coordinator at 860-594-2169, TRS 711, or at Deborah, DEBRA.goss, GOSS, at ct.gov. And here is the Title VI slide in Spanish. So I'm just going to leave this up for a minute or so for everybody to have a chance to read. Okay, could we have the next slide? Thank you. Okay. Now I'm going to introduce the team for this project. Matthew Bloom is the Traffic Engineering Division Chief at the Connecticut Department of Transportation. Lisa Conroy is the Principal Engineer in the Traffic Signals Unit. My name again is Kata Podgorski. I'm the Project Manager for this project. Nicholas Welch is our Project Engineer at the DOT. And Colleen Byrne is the Consultant Engineer helping with the design work for all these traffic signals. Gina Masinski is our consultant liaison engineer who's helping with the presentation tonight. And Malcolm Thomas is also with the DOT. He's in the right-of-way group, and he's representing that unit tonight. To talk a little bit more about the purpose of the meeting. First, we wanted to kind of give everybody an introduction to ConnDOT's program of signal replacement projects. You'll see this project is part of a larger puzzle that's continuously working to maintain assets throughout the state. We also want to provide an overview of the specific project and its status. And we want to obtain public input as well as respond to any questions or comments that come up. So to talk a little bit about what we call district various projects, I mentioned that this particular project we're going to talk about is in District 2. We have 4 major construction administration districts at the Connecticut Department of Transportation, and we put out 1 signal project per district per year. And the purpose of these projects is to maintain the almost 2,800 traffic signals that ConnDOT owns and maintains, to maintain them in a state of good repair. And in order to do that, we try to make sure that all of the structures and all of the components that make up the traffic signal are in good working order and are trying to meet current standards. So we have a rating system to evaluate all of the signals that we own and maintain. And it's a good, fair, or poor based on the condition and the presence of various elements of the signal. Some of the items that we look at, as all of these are cataloged in an extensive database with lots of information. We look at the age of the equipment. We look at the rating of the support structures, such as the mast arms or the span poles. Some of them can be very old, or sometimes they might be involved in a collision or crash and might need to be improved to be safe for the traveling public. We also gather input from our maintenance crews to see what troubles they're having, if they keep getting calls at certain locations, and they can help us identify issues. We can also look at some of the existing pedestrian treatments or some of the existing hardware or some of the other technological components of the signal to see if they're outdated and if they really should be brought into compliance with current standards. So that's kind of an overall look at what we do with these types of projects, and they are focused on improving reliability and functionality of the signal to maintain them in the state of good repair. Some of the items that we don't really consider, as these are isolated in locations throughout the district, we don't really consider major improvements like things that will have major right-of-way impacts or impacts on drainage patterns or realigning or corridor type improvements. Those are for bigger, more specifically targeted types of projects to certain locations. So with that, I think we can jump into this particular project overview. Okay, thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Colleen Byrne. I'm with Ty & Bond, a consultant engineer designing the signals for this project. So starting with a brief overview of the locations in the project, as Kata mentioned earlier, we have 10 locations within District 2 that are receiving full traffic signal replacements. Those towns include Chaplin, Griswold, Ledyard, New London, Norwich, Old Saybrook, and Plainfield. Each of those towns has 1 signal that is being reconstructed, with the exception of Griswold, which has 2 locations, and Plainfield, which has 3 locations. And each of those locations are represented on the map that you see on the right, with those pink pins or dots representing the individual intersection locations. So recapping a little bit more about this specific project and the overview and the purpose and need, we are, as Kate had mentioned earlier, replacing aging traffic signal infrastructure with all new signal equipment to achieve a state of good repair. Those improvements include new signal equipment at the intersections, and I'm going to dive into a little bit about each of these bullets more in the following slides. But in addition to new traffic signal equipment at each location, also looking at the pedestrian accommodation and the improvements we can provide there through the installation of new curb ramps and sidewalk connections. Potentially a flashing yellow arrow at some turning movement designations, which I'll touch on more later, as well as new vehicle detection at intersections to recognize vehicles that are at or approaching the intersection. We also look at transit stops that are present and improving access to those, as well as illumination and how our crosswalks and transit stops are illuminated. So a little bit more on the traffic signal equipment. This includes all the physical structural components that are involved in each location. So 9 of the 10 locations involve mast arm replacements. There's one location in Plainfield that will receive span wire treatment. And the signal heads will also be replaced. So those red, yellow, and green indications that are mounted to the mast arm or the span wire. Vehicle detection, as I mentioned earlier, it recognizes vehicles that are approaching or at a stop bar at an intersection. The controller that houses all the equipment for the operation of the traffic signal. Any existing or proposed preemption equipment that a city or town may have in place to aid emergency vehicles, whether it's fire or police or other emergency vehicles progressing through the intersection. And then any communication equipment, which may be connecting to adjacent intersections under a coordinated system. So I had mentioned that flashing left arrow earlier. So looking at the image in the bottom left corner, you can see this might be a little bit unfamiliar. It has been starting to be used in some locations in the state, but this is going to be implemented at some locations with left turn designations. And when this is implemented, you will see that left turn yield on flashing yellow arrow sign will be mounted to the mast arm immediately to the right of that flashing yellow indication. As I mentioned earlier, that controller cabinet has all the technology and computer equipment that fuels the signal, and you can see that image in the top right corner here is what the inside of that traffic signal cabinet looks like. So moving on to the pedestrian accommodations. So this will include new crosswalks at each location, as well as ADA compliant sidewalk ramps. The new sidewalks will connect any proposed ramps to, or potentially to existing ramps, and any bus stops that might be nearby. The pedestrian signals will all have current pedestrian signal equipment with push buttons. You can see an image in the far left side of the screen here showing a detail of what that would look like at a location, as well as pedestrian phasing and blank out signs. So you can see the video playing on the right side of the screen currently. These are overhead mounted variable signs which display a no turn on red indication for the pedestrian walk phase to restrict vehicles from taking a right turn on red during that phase, which then switches over to a vehicle turning vehicles yield to pedestrian indication during the remaining portion of the pedestrian phase. So a little bit more detail on that vehicle detection that I mentioned earlier. This is typically achieved through our 360-degree Bell cameras, which you can see a picture of on the left side of your screen. These are typically mounted overhead at the intersection, usually on the mast arm. And these provide presence detection for vehicles at the stop bars on the various intersection approaches. We also incorporate advanced detection, so typically through radar detection, and that's the image that you're seeing on the bottom left of the screen. And these provide detection for the arterial approaches, but in advanced detection zones, so for vehicles approaching an intersection. So with that equipment overview complete, I will now talk a little bit more about the details of each intersection and what's proposed at those locations. So starting off, we're in Chaplin. So this is intersection 024202, which is US Route 6 or Willimantic Road at the intersection with Lynch Road. This intersection is a three-way intersection with US Route 6 eastbound, westbound running horizontally across your screen in the aerial on the top right corner. And Lynch Road is the south leg that's intersecting US Route 6 from the vertical bottom leg of your screen on this aerial. So this intersection proposes there's no existing crossings at this intersection, and we're proposing two new pedestrian crossings. So these are indicated by the pink lines on the image on the left side of your screen, indicating the new crosswalks that are proposed. The green bars indicate the new pedestrian ADA compliant sidewalk ramps. We also have 3 mast arms that will service this new signal. So those are the blue lines indicated on the image on the left side of your screen. So these serve each of the 3 approaches at this intersection with far side mast arm and signal indications. Moving on to the next intersection. So this is intersection 057205 in Griswold. So Route 138 runs east and west across your screen on the horizontal plane in the image in the top right corner, with Edmond Road being your north leg of the intersection and Bethel Road being the south leg of the intersection. So this intersection also does not have any existing crossings, and we are proposing to install 2 new crossings, both on the east leg and the south leg. This intersection will have 3 new mast arms, as shown in the blue coloring on this layout, surveying all 4 approaches throughout the intersection. So our next intersection is also in Griswold. So this is the second of the 2 intersections. It's 057208. Also on Route 38, which is Patchogue Road, running east to west horizontally across the image in the top right of the screen, and intersecting with Route 201, which runs north to south, the vertical leg on the imagery in the top right of the screen. So this is an existing 4-way intersection, does not contain any existing crosswalks. However, one is proposed on the east leg with ADA compliant sidewalk ramps and pedestrian signal equipment proposed. This intersection will be served by 1 mast arm, which will run diagonally through the intersection, serving all 4 approaches. Our next intersection is in Ledyard. This is intersection 071207, Route 117, which is Colonel Ledyard Highway, intersecting with Route 214, Stoddards Wharf Road and Iron Street. So Route 117 is our horizontal leg across the imagery in the top right corner, with Route 214 being the vertical leg running east to west on the imagery. So this intersection currently has 1 existing crossing that is on the south leg, and that will be maintained, although it will be realigned slightly. And 3 new crossings are proposed on the remaining 3 legs. So all 4 approaches to the intersection will have marked crosswalks with ADA compliant sidewalk ramps and pedestrian push buttons and signal equipment. This intersection will be served by 4 new mast arms, 1 for each approach, providing far side signal indications. Our next intersection is in New London. This is intersection 094220. We are at State Route 908, which is Coleman Street, on the south side of the intersection, Coleman Street on the north leg of the intersection, and then the SR 623 off and on ramp, which is the east leg of the intersection. There are no existing crossings at this intersection. However, one is proposed on the north leg, with sidewalk ramps and signal pedestrian push buttons. And we have two mast arms serving this intersection. So the first being a diagonal mast arm in the northeast corner, which will serve the south leg and the east leg. And then another second mast arm serving the north leg of the intersection. Our next intersection is in Norwich. So this is intersection 103-237, which is Route 32 West Thames Street, running vertically across the image in the top right corner of your screen, with Dunham Street intersecting from the west, running vertically on the top of this image in the top right of your screen. So this intersection is a three-way intersection. There are two existing crossings today, as you can see in the gray scaled on this layout, running across the west leg and sort of diagonally across the intersection from south to north or southwest to northeast. So we are still proposing to have two crossings at this location. However, they will be slightly realigned with the crossing across Route 32 being better realigned to provide a crossing on the south leg. There's one mast arm proposed at this location, which is in the southwest corner. It'll be a diagonal mast arm serving all three approaches. And as indicated in the light blue color in the southwest corner, there is a easement that will be required from the adjacent property owner at this location to be able to provide the signal equipment on this location. And we'll talk a little bit more about right-of-way impacts later in the presentation. So the next intersection is in Old Saybrook, intersection 105-219. This is US Route 1, which is Boston Post Road, running horizontally across your screen, northbound, southbound. And then Lindy Street is the intersecting street on both the east and west legs, running vertically in the image in the top right corner of your screen. So this intersection currently has two crossings across the north leg and the east leg. These will be slightly realigned but maintained, and two new crossings are proposed across the south leg and the west leg on Lindy Street. Each of these crossings will have new sidewalk ramps, ADA accessible with pedestrian signal equipment at each crossing. Also 4 mast arms serving this intersection, one for each leg, and some easements will be required. So those are shown again in the light blue. There's small easements on each corner, either to house traffic signal equipment or to facilitate the installation of sidewalks, which may slightly impact private properties. Our next intersection is in Plainfield. So this is the first of 3 locations in Plainfield. This is intersection 108-210, which is Route 12, running north to south, which is the horizontal leg on the image in the top right corner of your screen. Lathrop Road Extension is the west leg of the intersection at the top of your screen. And then Lathrop Road is the east leg of the intersection towards the bottom of this image. So this intersection is a 4-way intersection and has 2 existing crossings on the north leg and the east leg. Those are proposed to be maintained, although slightly realigned, with new sidewalk, ADA compliant sidewalk ramps and pedestrian signal equipment at each crossing. This intersection is served by 4 new mast arms, one for each approach, which will provide fireside signal heads for indications for each approach. And again, we have this light blue area in the corner, which provides an easement area for the installation of the traffic signal equipment on that corner of the intersection. So the second of our two Plainfield locations is intersection 108-212. This is Route 12 northbound, southbound, running horizontally across your screen, and Dow Road being the intersecting street running vertically on your screen, which is the east leg of the intersection. This intersection is a three-way intersection, which has currently no existing crossings, although two are proposed, both on the north leg as well as the east leg. Each of these will have ADA compliant sidewalk ramps, pedestrian signal indications, and push buttons installed at them. And there are three mast arms proposed to provide far side indications for each of the three approaches. Those are indicated by the dark blue lines on this layout. That cyan light blue area on the west side of the road is providing an easement area for the installation of the traffic signal equipment on that west side of the intersection. And then the last of our intersections, and the last in Plainfield, is intersection 108-214. This is State Route 647, which is Lathrop Road. It runs generally northbound, southbound, horizontally across the image in the top right corner of your screen. We have several side street approaches here. So 395 off-ramp being the east leg of the intersection at the top of the image on your screen. The 395 southbound on-ramp is at the bottom right of your screen, which is the west leg of the intersection. And then Old Norwich Road, this is a one-way approach for vehicles heading towards the intersection, and is the northwest leg of the signal. So there are two proposed crossings at this intersection, one across the 395 off-ramp, which is the north leg of the intersection, and then another across State Route 647 southbound Lathrop Road, which is the north leg of the north leg of the intersection. So this intersection is a little bit unique from the others in that this one includes a span wire configuration. So there are 4 traffic signal poles which are proposed, and the span wire configuration will straddle at the intersection as shown in the blue lines. So that concludes the review of each of the individual locations. A little bit about the overall project coordination that's been going on since this was initiated. So town notification letters were sent to the impacted municipalities back in December of 2024. The input was requested from the municipalities for the preliminary design considerations in January 2025. Though that last intersection in Plainfield that I reviewed is also overlapping with state project L108-0001, which was the Lathrop Road sidewalk extension and pedestrian safety improvement project. And coordination with that project has been ongoing. We're having our virtual public information meeting today, so July 15th, 2025. And upcoming, we will be conducting utility coordination to coordinate with the various utility providers at these locations, both through a virtual meeting with the utility companies and a field meeting at each of the locations with the affected utility companies, both are which forthcoming and dates are to be determined. I had mentioned earlier some of the intersection had those light blue areas indicated where there may be potential right-of-way impacts to the adjacent property owners. So these are typically easements that are required to facilitate the installation of either the signal equipment or construction of sidewalks. And that process is ongoing. The number of impacts has yet to be finalized pending further design. But with that, I will pass it over to Malcolm from CTDOT Rights of Way unit to discuss the right of way process a bit more.
Thank you, Colleen. As mentioned, The right-of-way division is responsible for acquiring all necessary property rights for transportation projects throughout the state. I'm here to provide a brief overview of our acquisition process. As mentioned, rights, specific property rights for this project are still being finalized and may change as the design progresses. Any property rights will be acquired in accordance to the Connecticut General Statutes sections 13A 73 and 13A 98E, as well as a Uniform Act. It's important to note that the state will only acquire property rights that are deemed necessary for the project. Once all the impacts from the project have been determined, the right-of-way acquisition process will begin. Impacted property owners will receive a formal letter of intent to acquire, along with a property map which depicts the exact property rights to be acquired. Our office will determine a fair market value for those property rights, which will be used to establish overage compensation. That offer will be sent to property owners in writing, and a right-of-way agent will be available to meet with impacted property owners to explain the project and go over specific impacts to their property and explain the state's offer. Property owners will typically have 30 days to consider the state's offer and enter into negotiations. Once an agreement is reached, the department will prepare all necessary paperwork to record the conveyance documents and property maps on the town's land records. In the case the agreement cannot be reached, to keep the schedule with the project, the department may acquire the necessary property rights through its power of eminent domain, which the state will file a notice of condemnation in the Superior Court, along with a monetary deposit in the amount of the state's offer. The owner will have 6 months from that date to file an appeal if they feel the state's offer was inadequate. Whether or not the owner chooses to appeal, the money will be deposited in the court and will be available to be withdrawn by the owner at any time. I can answer questions regarding right-of-way during our Q&A portion of tonight's meeting. With that, I'll bring it back to Colleen to conclude our presentation.
Thanks, Malcolm. So I will talk a little bit about the project cost and design schedule. So this project is 100% state funded with a overall budget of $10 million. The design schedule, so the preliminary engineering has been completed. We are currently in the preliminary design phase, as was mentioned earlier in those layouts that we reviewed. We will progress to final design plans in June 17th of 2026 with a advertising date of August 26, 2026, and a construction start date anticipated for the spring of 2027. So in terms of next steps, so we are in the preliminary design stage. We will advance into final design, where we will incorporate public feedback, continue that traffic signal design at a more detailed level, which allows us to identify the potential right-of-way needs. And as I mentioned earlier, that utility company coordination will progress through virtual and in-person field meetings at each of the locations to coordinate with the various utility providers on servicing the new equipment and any impacts that may be identified for the proposed equipment. So with that, I'll pass it over to Gina for our question and answer session.
Thanks, Colleen. So as a reminder, I'm gonna post the email, phone number, and website information in the chat again, just to verify availability. All project group members are available for the Q&A portion. Just to go through the options, questions can be submitted by email to dotsignalreplacements@ct.gov, by phone at 860-594-2020, on Zoom currently during the live Q&A portion, and general project information, project descriptions, and a transcription of the report of meeting will be posted to the project webpage within a 3-week window at https portal.ct.gov/DOT Eastern CT 0172-0535. And the comment period is open through July 29th, 2025. The project team will be reviewing the email address for incoming questions and comments and the voicemail system. So we'll give a few minutes for Q&A here on Zoom, and then I'll check the voicemail for this project. It is critical that if you leave a voicemail or send an email, you include the project number, which is 0172-0535, and it'll help us verify that the comment or question is related to this project. I did just check the project email address, and I don't see any questions there just yet, but we'll give everyone some time. I will also take a moment to copy and paste into the chat the voluntary post-meeting survey. So any opportunity to take that survey and provide general feedback regarding the virtual public information meeting process would be greatly appreciated. I'm gonna take a moment now. I'm gonna put myself on mute and turn my video off just to check the voicemail and verify any comments that may have come that way. Feel free to post anything in the Q&A section if needed. just reviewed the project voicemail box, and there are no voicemails pertaining to this project, but please feel free to utilize the project voicemail box again at 860-594-2020 and reference project number 01720535 within the 2-week comment period. But at this time, there are no Q&A questions within the Q&A function on Zoom, and there's no questions currently in the email or the voicemail system. So at this point, thank you everyone for attending. Please follow up with any questions related to the project, and we'd be happy to help. And please take a moment to complete the voluntary post-meeting survey at your earliest convenience to provide feedback on the program.